Welcome to the funeral, you guys. Coding is officially dead. It died. And we're going to explain to you why it died, right? Let's get into it.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so when I first started out as a web designer, I swear to God, and still to this day, all the code bros that are out on my TikTok come at me and they're like...
What is a code bro? Hold on. Sorry. For first time of me cutting you off of the episode, what is a code bro?
First but not last. A code bro is a bro that is probably in his 40s, late 30s, early 40s, definitely white male sitting behind his computer, fucking pissed that a woman is making a lot of money as a web designer and is not coding. That is what a code bro is. And they're like angry about it.
Thank you for the quick clarification.
You are welcome. That is the official definition on Google if you look it up.
Okay. So back into the podcast. Yeah. Why coding is dead. What took its place if it's dead? If it's buried, it's 6 feet under. Where is
6 feet under?
What is the new thing?
Pour one out for the homies. Okay. And I'm just going to let you know, like preface that obviously there's a time and place where coding is still involved. Like obviously, like literally the platform that I would suggest has been coded, right? So like, I'm obviously not like straight up dogging on it as like an entirety, but what I'm saying is that in order for you to be successful as a web designer, you don't need to know an ounce of fucking code. And if you do, then great, have fun. And those should really just be like fun animations or little things that you can like add to your design. But that the idea of needing to code out your entire fucking website or a client's website is quite literally a joke. And I actually think that when you release the pressure or like idea behind that you have to code in order to be a successful web designer, you are probably going to open up so many more doors and so much more opportunity and be way more successful, honestly.
So where would the time and place be for still doing like Java, HTML? Like why is it still a thing? And what is the big difference that you feel like is like finally ready for?
I feel like the only reason why you would ever do that is if you thoroughly enjoy it. Like if you really enjoy writing code and enjoy developing sites like that, then great, like have at it.
Yeah.
And or your job requires it and you make a good amount of money and you're really like comfortable and cozy and you want to stick with it. Like, sure, I'm not going to dog on you. But if you don't hit the mark on those things, if you don't enjoy it and you feel like it takes way too much time, you just waste a shit ton of time, your clients aren't happy or you feel really annoyed once you deliver your site over and then they're coming at you and they're like, how do I change this text? And like, my site says it's broken. What the fuck? Like if that is annoying you at all, or if you don't have a job that's paying you 6+ figures, you don't need to code.
Totally.
And I think that, you know, we're in this like modern era that you have to like release those things. Like think about it. Back in the day, you had to code. You quite literally had to code in order to develop a website. And we're like in 2023 now, like fucking move on. It's not like that. There are platforms that people have spent like hours and hours and millions of dollars developing so that you don't have to code.
Yeah, literally.
Why would you not take advantage of that? It literally, I remember a couple weeks ago, we were driving, we were talking about this exact topic and I said something that I feel like honestly is maybe like a knee slapper mixed with like mic drop.
Okay. I'm ready for it.
You ready for it? It's the analogy of like, if you were to go to your grandfather's house, right? And he has a landline. And you're like, Grandpa, like, how come you don't get like a new phone, like an iPhone? He's always bitching because he has to have like all like the books and he has like the old school, like, you know, books where you can like get the restaurant. What are those things called? They're like old school. I don't even know. Do you know
a phone book?
It's not a phone book though, but it has like
a registry.
It's like an info book. I don't know. He has all the old school fucking shit because he has like a landline.
Pamphlet.
Something, yeah. He has like all the pamphlets of like restaurants on his fridge, landline, just super old school, outdated. Like love Grandpa for that, but like outdated. We have iPhones now that have fucking Safari, right? It's literally like that. It's like you thinking or obsessing with that concept that coding is the only way is literally like your grandpa having a landline and refusing to live in 2023 and have an iPhone just to make his life easier because it was the way that it's supposed to be and it's not.
It's so funny now, like being in the world of web design, being in the world of like user experience and stuff like that, and occasionally popping onto sites that are current but are still just like a very janky WordPress site. Like I was on one just like a couple of days ago, and I was like, man, like it is so, and it's funny, it's actually the website of this building, our office building, because it has an art gallery, and I was trying to help a friend get into the art gallery to put their art in. And I was like, this website is so crazy, where it's like, it has so much content on it that you have to scroll like a mile, like literally the largest thing, and you have no idea what to do on it. And it's so wild too, because I always think about websites that are still just built on WordPress, still janky, buttons are broken and things. It's so simple. There's no design to it. And it's like, they likely, the organization or business that had that likely had somebody do it that likely isn't on their team anymore, or died, or something crazy happened. And so a lot of the time businesses like don't even have any other option other than to just like leave it, or maybe one day see hopefully one of our students' videos on TikTok and be like, holy shit, I need a new website. Because I feel like that's the thing, is about like this, like, you know, boomer generation bringing up Gramps and stuff like that. A lot of the time, like there is a newfound understanding as to why a website, obviously, like back in the day, it was like why a website matters. Oh, you need a website. Obviously, like that was like convincing those people, right? But then since then, a lot has like changed. A lot of website functionality has honestly gotten simplified with the platforms changing and evolving. And so a lot of the businesses, I feel like, don't even know that the coded era might have like left the stage a little bit.
Yeah.
So I feel like now,
but even if you're talking about not the perspective of the businesses that would be hiring for web designers, if we bring it back to the people that are trying to become web designers, and they're the ones that find me on TikTok and they're like, wait, do I not need to know how to code? Right. The answer is no, you don't need to know how to code at all.
Yeah.
And my most successful web designers that are making $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, literally like me, don't know an ounce of fucking code. It's not required. It's not mandated. You don't need to do it. And I think that this like hold that it has almost on like the web design industry is why I'm so passionate about showing up and like informing people that it doesn't need to be that way. Because I think people they're always like so shocked when they find out that I don't code. And I think that even a lot of the time when I do videos on like, I charged this for a website, people are like, oh, did you just like design that and then like someone else will develop it? Like that's way too overpriced for that.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you clearly don't know what you're fucking talking about, because on the platform, like show it, the one that I design on and what I would highly recommend anyone to design on, it makes it so that you don't even have to do any designing externally. Like I don't do anything where I create mock-ups. I literally
no
go,
XD.
no, thank you. Like my entire like mentality around business is that it gets to be easy. And I also truly believe that time is money. And when you start making money as a web designer, you'll realize that you just want more time to work with clients, because that's how you're going to make more money. So why would you make your own process take longer and make you design a site twice? Why would you do that to yourself? There's no reason. And it's because someone told you. Someone told you that you needed to do that, and then you just believe that that was the way. But I just don't believe in that.
It's so interesting too, because like I remember I had probably worked and consulted with probably 10 to 15 different web designers before I ever encountered someone that used Adobe XD or used like wireframes. And I was like,
why would you
why are you doing that? Like I understand.
If that's your creative,
if it's your process, it's dope. And like, I honestly think that like it honestly helps this one designer that I'm referencing. She excels, like her shit is fucking crazy. But when I saw it for the first time, having only really been exposed to how you designed, I was like, it just doesn't seem like you're being efficient by designing it in the platform that you're not going to design it in.
Well, I think when you think about coding, you're basically coding something to like mimic a design. And so I do understand having mock-ups as like your base when you're then coding, because you're kind of like bringing that back to life on the back end. So I do understand that, like bringing almost having to make it visual before you write the code. Like I do understand that more, but I feel like it just, when you're designing on like Show It in Squarespace, it does not make sense because you're literally designing on a platform that is basically like Adobe XD. Like it's like a blank fucking canvas,
Right.
And you're laying
It's like
out
these
all the
new
things.
platforms just blanketed all of them into one.
Totally. Yeah, but like if you're writing out if you're doing your whole mock-up and you're like creating your menu bar and then your header and you're like, you're still doing all the work. You're dragging in all the pieces,
Yep.
You're uploading all the images, all the fonts, everything like that, the colors. Why not just do that on Show It? Because on Show It, it's just as easy to make changes. Like, yeah, I just think that it's such a thing that it does realistically add more time. And if that is just your process, not like trying to dog on you at all. Like
Absolutely.
Just go for it and do it. But if you feel like there needs to be a different way and maybe someone along the lines told you that this was the only way that you had to do it and it just feels like a waste of time, then like this is your permission that you can like, you don't need to do that.
Yeah. So I feel like with coding kind of coming to, let's call it a precipice of there not being a need for things to be coded now. I feel like that was largely in part to the first wave of these more user-friendly platforms like Wix and Squarespace, and then Show It kind of came out. Do you feel like now that there are kind of new players in the game like Webflow, Go High Level, like all of these new user-friendly website builders, do you feel like that like surge of these new platforms is kind of the reason why you could say coding is dying out or dying or dead or however you want to call it?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it will just continue to be, it'll continue to become more user friendly. And I think that that is at the end of the day, the difference between coding and using a platform that just is easier.
Yep.
And their whole philosophy behind all of those platforms that you just mentioned, including Show It and Squarespace and all of them, is that it is more user friendly. And a whole angle of it is that it's become more user friendly, not only for web designers and developers, but also for the client's perspective.
The user, yeah.
The user. You're not the user, you're the designer. The user is the person that actually will have their website hosted on this platform and will then need to go in and make these updates. Once you finish working with a client, like you don't care if they do a photo shoot in 6 months and they need to change out their photos. They do.
Yep.
They're the user. They're the owner of that website and the person that website needs to stay aligned with their business. And so it ends up not only saving you time, but it also saves a lot of headache for the client.
Yeah.
And I think that when I see people coming onto my TikTok and like basically telling me that like I'm a fucking idiot because I think that I'm a designer because I don't know how to code, like I almost laugh to myself because they're really the ones that like, I'm like, when you know, and you clearly don't know, because I know for a fact that you've had clients be like, what do you mean I can't change this out? Like, what do you mean I have to pay you $250 a month for a retainer? What, like all those things that's so traditional when you work with someone who just fully like writes and like, posts their own coded websites. Yeah. I just think that it's like, it's a new era. Like you gotta get with it. So
for all of the, code bros, code gals, all of the people that are listening to this that maybe are like, okay, but what about my, career in software development or development as a whole? Where do you feel like the advantage kind of comes in if you are someone that does know one of these languages like Python or HTML or something like that? And do you feel like there's like a sweet spot actually for someone to come in as a coder into the world of like user-friendly web design and totally hold that as like a competitive advantage and put them at a much higher place than their competitors? I think
100%. I don't necessarily think higher because I think other people can have advantages in other areas, but I do think it's an like advantageous thing to have in your corner if you can market it. And I think that how you can market it is that you use a user-friendly website for the benefit of the client in the long run. You sell it like that and you end up saving your design time. You're like, because if you think about websites, 80% of it is like the bare bone website being established. You have all the menu, the headers, the buttons,
things,
the text, everything is like established. And then 20% should be like the really creative out of the box design. So if you know, obviously when it's a user-friendly type platform, 20% of the like out of the box design is still somewhat limited to what you can just do.
Right.
Obviously, like Show It has like animations and things like that, and you can play with like flashy text and upload GIFs, but like you can't go crazy. But if you want to go that crazy route where like your sites look like Webflow and things are like moving and jumping in and, you know, being like parallax behind, like that is a huge benefit to coding because you can totally code on all of those user sites. And you just basically take their bare bone ability and like up level it to something that you can't do with code. And that's amazing.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean that you can't not use it, which you probably will save a lot of time.
I feel like with like so there's the surge of these new user-friendly platforms, but then there's also this surge of like, you know, all of these businesses trying to go online or needing to go online. And so therefore needing way more websites. And I think that what I've seen also kind of happen is that there is a new huge demand for websites as a whole. And most of the time, there's no need for the complexity of coding. Like most websites are not the size of like Nordstrom's website, or like not the complexity of like a crazy e-commerce website, or like a website that has like user portals logging in and out.
Or like the creative desire, like a creative agency would need, you know?
Exactly. But then like, I feel like what you kind of found early on and what you were able to do is kind of separate this idea that as being a web designer, you just needed to be able to get ready to design every single kind of website that you are going to encounter, like for all of those like intricacies, all of those differences of each different brand and industry and things like that. And instead find your niche, if you will, and pick something that you actually enjoy. And also, I think that goes to the level of complexity that there is. Working with personal brands that sell like coaching programs, products, a couple of e-commerce products, maybe it's a mastermind, a photography workshop, something like that. Their websites are relatively so simple in that it's like 5 to 10 pages. And the primary function is to get people to fill out an application. Like it's that simple. They want to learn about you and fill out an application.
Yeah.
There doesn't need
that's
to be
like 70% of our online space.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's why I push so many of my web designers to go into the online space, because I think a lot of them think like, oh, I need to, you know, build websites for like local businesses, like X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, that sounds fucking horrible. Like,
well, and I feel like it adds to it when you need to add in different functionality. Like, I feel like there's the sweet spot of online service providers and actually like not needing to integrate with things. Like maybe you're integrating with like Calendly or like Honeybook or some CRM for a form.
Zapier.
So even. Fucking easy.
I feel like the hardest, not like the hardest, but like the more like challenging platforms that I would ever integrate with Show It specifically was Zapier, because then you just have to do testings, or Kajabi maybe, but not even. Like they're so relatively simple and easy.
Like I've worked with so many web designers that work with real estate agents, and they're like, okay, I need to like integrate this whole like MLS portal. Yeah. And I'm like, damn, have fun. Fuck because it's going to fucking suck to get that in there to look good, especially when like you have this like established aesthetic and you're trying to integrate these like huge chunky embed boxes that just pretty much ruin everything. Like I remember for the longest time on my website, similar what I was just saying, the whole functionality was I was looking for coaching applications. I wanted people to book consulting calls, fill out my application for high ticket services, and learn about me. That was the only thing that I needed to happen on my website. And I remember like thinking, okay, I'm like kind of tired of like sending people to Typeform for this application. What if I like did put it on my website? Like would I get more applications? And so I would mess around with adding like Honeybook forms. I messed around with Dubsado. And I was like, man, Becca's really getting good at design. And these forms look so fucking ugly on my website that I literally can't handle having them on there. And then just like the entire time resulted in just using Typeform.
Yeah, honestly. Well, I think that our consensus is that coding obviously isn't dead.
So it's not 6 feet under. It's starting to crawl back up slowly.
It's like 2 feet under. Like I want you through, this episode to hopefully realize that you don't need a code, and that won't, provide more like value or validate your value. And you can be a super successful web designer with no coding knowledge whatsoever. Yeah. I have built such a big web design brand, and I don't know any code. Like, release that pressure.
Out of the 100, one last question. Out of the 100 plus websites that you've done in the last 2 years, what was the biggest amount of code that you used? And like, what was like maybe the best use case?
I only do like 2 pieces of code, and it's like a typewriter effect and a countdown on sales pages. That's literally it. So it's just then like once it was done, copy and paste, but nothing. And none of my clients have ever asked for it at all, because guaranteed the websites that I have countdown timers on and typewriters, guess what? 3 months later, I get a message saying, how do I change this? Yeah. Like, I promise you, just don't fucking code, okay? Save time, mega. And if you want to learn how to design and create beautiful websites without code, I would highly recommend taking CEO of Show It. If you have seen any of my TikToks about Show It and you want to learn, 100% start there, because it's going to be the best place for you.
100%.
So with that, we will see you the next episode. Soon.